And we're back in the room. We are delighted to welcome Chris Howe, Head of BT Cyber Labs at BT, Darren Chatterley, Global Product Manager, Cybersecurity Value-Added Services, Vodafone Business, and Martin Zbozien, Information Security Officer at MetCloud. It's a great pleasure to have you here at the MSS West Midlands. Thank you very much, Ian. We are talking the potential architect of the future, the super architect, the skill set for the MSSP of the future. And on our panel, I am very conscious that we have a balance between business and technical acumen. And that is deliberate because we are supposing that tomorrow's super architect, super top post holder has both sort of qualities. And here maybe we will find out if that's true or not. But let me start off by questioning our assumptions. Chris, I'm really curious. We are saying that technical specialists are being told they need business skills, and we're saying business specialists need technical skills. Is there actually that pressure?
There's not a pressure, okay, but if you want to excel, you need to have those business skills. But then what you've got to look at is, well, what do you mean by business skills? Okay, is it I need to understand the balance sheet? I need to learn finance, okay? Or is it soft skills? Okay, your ability to communicate, your ability to talk to people, your ability to present information. Okay, and I think what I've found is it's a lot more easy to do business with those softer business skills. So you could question: is it a business skill of being able to present, or is it a technical skill? Come from a technical degree background, we were taught how to present. Okay, so you could say, is it a necessary evil, or is it something you've just got to be able to do if you want to progress?
And absolutely right, because maybe 20 years ago, you might say, I'm proficient in Microsoft Word on your CV. You might do that. Today, we assume it's not a technical skill. I mean, for some, maybe, I don't know. But Darren, conversely, do you feel that the business specialist is being pressured into being a technical specialist?
I think in a sense, yes, they are, or they should be actually, because what they probably would need to appreciate is without having the technical background and the ability to consume that, what they're actually doing is potentially pursuing business objectives without understanding the technical impact of that and the risk that they may be taking on associated with that. And yeah, what they need to do is understand that, but not at the detailed level, obviously, of the technical specialist. And I think one of the challenges can sometimes be that they can get scared and a bit spooked by it. And actually, again, if the technical specialist isn't able to perhaps convey in a business sense around that risk, then that's kind of what they'll get, and they can tend to then do well, it's telling me I have to protect everything and I have to spend all this budget on things before I can do what I want to do around business agility, maybe, or the digital operating model of the business and the digitalization, or it's kind of like just blow my mind, and actually I'm in paralysis, so I don't know what to do and I'm really scared, but I'm just going to close my ears to it and hope that it doesn't go wrong because I'm overwhelmed by it.
And that's maybe a key thing relating to our opening panel, where Ellie was talking about education and the balance between the people that have been full stack developers since they were born. Maybe, I don't know, these mythical people. They just start coding. But then I wonder, Martin, I'd be interested. Are we going to start to see a cadre of people for whom coding development is no more unusual than word processing? Are we going down that route, Or are we maybe going towards a sort of a standing on shoulders of giants approach, where the tools we use are codeless compute, or or something a lot easier, and that speaks to the future shape of the architect?
Well, I think we have to actually look on the problem from three aspects. There is the technical, there is the management, and there is the client. And from my perspective is that person need to understand these three things: how to speak with technical, how to speak to management, understand the management, what is the expectation from the management, and also speak to the client, because client need also understand the product which we want to actually give to them, right? And I think when we're starting from small organization, typically we have this person who speak to these three panels, right? And after the organization grow, there start to be gap, because there is people focusing on technical, focusing on management, focusing directly to the client. And I think one organization just realize we still need these people who actually are able to speak to these 3 points. And I think, this is the future. But I had actually one discussion some time ago with one person who told me, are you good at something or you not good in nothing, right? So, and I say, well, I think this is going to be new specialization of person who is able to talk those 3 aspects of the organization. And I think this is the way to go, because without this, the organization cannot grow properly, because there is going to be always differences between different kind of objectives, different kind of understanding the business and so on. So for sure, we need these people. And I think it's going to be the way to go.
And so these people that we're kind of indicating could be super architects, right? Let me just quickly expand on that, Martin, because I'm wondering, do you think then that the super architect is the promoted engineer, or is it a sort of sidestepping technology business leader? Where does it sit in a career path?
Well, that's actually a good question, because where to start to understand actually the business, right? And I think from my perspective is that you have to go first to the technical. You have to understand the bottom of actually what you try to deliver, right? Then you go to management, how you want to deliver it. What is the objective of delivering the service? And then you go into the client and saying, okay, this is what we want to deliver, because they give you the benefits from this product. So I think it's actually need to go from the technical point to the management and then to the client, to be honest.
Okay.
That's my point of view.
And then Chris, I wonder, do you think this is a revolutionary framework, or are there frameworks? I think on our pre-call we mentioned Zbozien, TOGAF. Are there frameworks to help us, find this super architect?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I know to the top of my head, there's 2 frameworks I can think of: TOGAF, Open Group Architectural Framework, and that focuses on enterprise architecture, and then Zbozien, which is enterprise security architecture. Now, their frameworks, if we take TOGAF, business, data, applications, and then technology. We always start with the business. Everything, all the layers below that enable the business. The business doesn't enable the technology. Okay, so back to your question. Going off and doing a course on one of these things, you need to have the experience. It's a bit like an MBA. You don't just do an MBA and then go into business. You're in the business for a long time before you decide to do an MBA. It's the same with the architectural framework and the learnings from there. You need to have that underlying, your base level technology, be a specialist in something. Then maybe then sort of start to branch out a bit more, do a bit here, do a bit there. So you have that broad foundation of technical capability there. Okay. And then effectively the framework is a framework. It's not prescriptive way of doing things. It's a set of guidelines and approach. Does that make sense? So it's very hand wavy, as you can see. I'm waving my hands.
No, I like to wave my hands. That's why I'm clutching papers. But it does, raise an interesting point, because if this framework exists and if the architect is the person we're pinning our hopes on, I wonder, Chris, if I can bring a point. Ian in the audience sort of says, what about the current state of cloud usage? Do you think that the cloud has made the question of traditional architecture skills a moot point?
No.
No.
No, because ultimately, let's go to business data application technology. Okay, your old school way of doing things was servers and things, technology, real technology you put your hands on. Okay, that was technology. Now in the cloud, shift up, it's applications. Applications still need to enable the business. It's just at a different, you're working at a different layer. That's really, it's just a shift in the position. If you were to work for one of the hyperscalers, an architect for them, you're still going to be doing the hands-on with physical service. A lot of companies, just because things have moved to the cloud, those clouds are built on things. Okay, so there's still the absolute need for that architectural. In some ways, it's possibly more important because you have so much choice. The solution isn't just here's a solution; it's a given. It's like you've got options. There's competition. There's so many things to choose from, and really, the architecture is making the right decision for the business, a consistent decision. It doesn't matter where you're making a decision at; it's still consistency and what's right for the business, what the requirements.
Which is why maybe an MSSP is not a threat to an end customer's architecture team, that it's merely something you're pulling down. It's you're architecting the third party. And we spoke with Ian previously about why some third parties might be afraid of other third parties, and so on. But collaboration it's a better outcome. But and I'll get to your question, Tom, in just a moment. Darren, we talked about business skills, and we talked, you wouldn't do an MBA as your first degree. I mean, some people do it, but maybe it offers a degree of reflection on your career, that maybe you should attempt something like that later in your career. But how do we get these business skills then? Do we want to draw people throw them into a sales environment, throw them into a finance environment? How does that skill set develop?
I think, first of all, initially, probably it's just the recognition that the business objectives, are very much underpinned. So it does come with the business objectives first, but they're underpinned by the technological and the technical teams, and that recognition of that. So it's not that I don't understand this and I'm going to bury my head in the sand. You've got to get to a point where business leaders understand that fundamentally that success, maybe or failure even of the business, is reliant on that cyber approach, and recognizing that and appreciating that. And it's kind of the will rather than the skill necessarily to go and understand it at a deep level. And that's really important, because they'll then know, well, whatever it is that I'm trying to do, I will need to understand what the implications are and how I need to shape what I do with the technical teams to protect my business. And then I think it's probably from the technical angle to help provide tools and systems or information, data, whatever that might be, to help convey to the business people about, okay, I know you don't understand sandboxing or encryption levels or hash codes or whatever technology you might want to throw, or firewalls or IDS or IPS or whatever else it is, but actually here it is in kind of layman terms that you can understand it. A bit of a shameless plug, I guess. What we're working on in Vodafone is a portal where customers can go there and have to deploy any software, they don't have to have any cyber knowledge, they don't have to deploy anything. We'll give them a view of their cyber security posture, something called Cyber Hub, a view of their cyber posture, and relative to other companies in their sector, in an A to F, a bit like an energy rating on an electrical appliance, and they can see how they compare. Because I think for a business, it's all about, we know that nobody is 100% secure. 100% secure network isn't really a network because it's not connected anywhere. By definition, you have some exposure. It's about managing in that, and I think making sure that you're as protected as you can be with the risks and the budget, and probably better than others, because we know the bad guys all go after the easy meat.
And that that sort of proves why the MSS question is so vibrant, because the MSS has the economies of scale to offer a service, like you mentioned, sort of benchmarking with your peers. Because otherwise, if it's just me and I don't have that oversight, I don't have the oversight of threats that are coming up amongst all customers, and I don't have the ability to show them where they sort of sit. Now, Tom has a question which kind of relates to a question we had with Ian on the last session about physical and cyber convergence. Let me deal with the first question. He says, shouldn't we therefore prepare for the future, incorporating physical security skills if we start to offer other systems like access control and things like that? I guess, Marcin, this is a tricky one, because I don't think you're a physical security specialist, but you might be, but if we were to develop the super architect of the future, surely they have to deal with things like that.
That's for sure, and many times when I speak with not experienced people and ask them, okay, what do you think about hacking? What is hacking for you? And they say, well, you're sitting on the computer and actually try to get access to some kind of environment or some infrastructure. And I say to him, well, it's not only this. Sometimes, actually, many times, it is actually physical security. Because one thing is actually get access to the network, other thing get physical access to the network. Sometimes you are not able to get to internal network through simply go to internet and get access to the network. You have to go physically. You have to go to reception. You actually try to phone, for example, the receptionist and ask about the password and try to some kind of social engineering. So both of those actually physical and cybersecurity must work very close, in my opinion. And this is actually the key to make the whole organization secure.
That's right. And people will maybe know, maybe not know that my other hat is in entirely physical security series, which I'm very partial to bringing up in MSS events. But this is the super architect panel. So another question come through on the previous point. Isn't it easier to get a technical specialist to learn sales rather than the other way around? Ooh, Chris, this super architect, shall we draw them from our cadre of engineers and then put them in sales for a few months or something? I don't know.
It depends what startup sell, because sales isn't just knocking on people's doors and full no's and they really mean no. There's a spectrum. So sales engineering, okay. So if you were to have a very big security deployment, £1 million plus deployment at a customer, it's not just the non-technical salesperson handshake deal done. If it's a deployment, if you're deploying stuff into a customer site, you're going to need a degree of refining the scope, and this is where sales engineering fits in. And I did a portion of that at a customer, okay, but the reason I did it was because it was very technical. It's create the concept of this is what it's going to look like in your environment, okay, and it was the specific technical bits that really we had to drill into to say, to really look at what outcomes is this solution going to give. What the outcomes of the technology going to enable?
Which is important, because as you say, sales isn't necessarily door knocking and straight line and all sorts of methodologies, and neither is business synonymous with sales. So Darren, I wonder, this super architect, is it time to say it's not a person but a team?
I think it is very much a team, absolutely, and just go back to the sales point. I think again, a bit like the general business, but sales specifically, cyber and crypto is very technical, and there's no getting away from that. And I think a lot of general salespeople will be put off by approaching their customer if that's not their specialty, having a conversation, because they're very aware that they can quickly get into an area which they're not familiar with and look silly. So having that appreciation, I think, applies for sales to be able to do that. But they don't need to go down anywhere the near level. And actually, what I find is because it's so complex, actually, and unless you're quite technical, not many people do know. So it's not that difficult in some senses to get to a position where you are comfortable, you can have a conversation, you can use some analogies without getting into the deep, bits and bytes technical detail that help you convey what the threats are, what the mitigations are around that, and the controls you can employ. And salespeople can be more confident about opening conversations around, what is your security policy, where is your data, what initiatives do you have, how are people working, how people connect into the network, where are your applications, all that good stuff, and lead into a conversation that might lead in one area or another, and then bring in the SE and the technical experts to go, because it will end up deep dive. But yeah, I mean, seeing some salespeople who have come absolutely from a non-technical angle, non-technical degrees, and they can be sufficient at a cyber level to be able to have conversations and bring in the experts when they need them.
Which seems to be quite an interesting model. And I know not all geographies in the world like that model, in that some say, well, we must just speak with the engineer and I don't want to speak to anyone else. But wouldn't it be easier, Martin, and maybe more expensive, if, like the office of the CISO, there was the office of the architect? And who would be in that office, Martin? Anyway.
Well, in my opinion, and I have to speak a little bit from my experience, is that I remember I was a technical person and I was thrown to the client, front of the client. This was actually my the best experience, because I was actually in different kind of environment and I had to actually speak to the client directly. And this gave me the experience to understand what kind of issue the salesperson had, because you have to remember that cybersecurity products are very specific. They're not like selling food or, I don't know, cars. They're very specific. They need very technical background from the salespeople. And if you go direct to the clients, you start understanding what they're actually looking for from the product, from the technical background, which the salesperson is not always able to explain this specifically. Yeah, they try, they use different kind of techniques. Sometimes this fear, sometimes this is actually showing the benefits from the product. But the technical person, if we be, I tell you that I really encourage people to throw sometimes these technical people to the front desk, front of the client, and try speak with the client, because technical person is gonna be like truthful. He's gonna say how he feels the product should work, how the product actually benefit the clients, and this mixed together with actually the salespeople and actually how management actually see the product. And again, I would say to you that, yes, we need those people who have all the skills, management, talk with client, and technical, because in my opinion, that's actually the future for every organization to be.
Okay, and yeah, maybe the super architect, maybe the office of the architect, maybe the super architect is the manager of the office of the architect.
Yeah,
I don't know, and I know someone's going to trademark super architects, and I should get in there quickly. But Edem Glimin says, what is needed to build the best balance in technical sales and business acumen to create the perfect guy to solve customer problems? I guess we're going there. We're going super architect. Chris, if we were to create this super architect, what have we got? How are we going to build them? Like, are we going to take you and then send you on some really aggressive business course, or are you going to sit in finance for a few months? What is it? How would we create the super architect if we did it?
So what you've got to think of is, well, what type of super architect you're looking for? Okay, is it a customer facing one as an MSSP? Is it internal architects, which helps build a portfolio? Okay, so there's different functions of a security architect in the first place. Okay, but if I was to sort of build it from the ground up, your broad technical base, you have to have that. I was thinking of a lifeguard analogy. Okay, a lifeguard, primary function, save lives. Okay, but the foundation is they have to be able to swim. Then they should be able to do first aids. Okay, so it's almost a very generalist thing. So it's quite a hard question to answer. But I think the underlying thing is experience. if you look at a lot of job adverts for enterprise architects, okay, 10 years experience, a decade. Okay, so, well, but I really want to go for it. It's they call career paths a path. It's not a career next stop. It's a full path. It's a journey. Okay, which takes a long time to get there, and it's sometimes for myself, I've had a bit of impatience with building up your career. I just want to get there. I want to get there, but it's going to take a long time. It's almost it's a long journey to get there, which is built upon experience. Now, if you were to stay in the same job for a decade, that 10 years experience in the one job isn't going to get you there. It's about moving around, and those business skills I found from personal experiences, I picked them up along the way. But part of it is the reflection on what you're doing, and having small business courses, interacting with different people, and just getting out there, talking to people.
Yeah. Pick them up along the way, you know, life learners, career path. I think these are all great sentiments. I'll tell you what, then let's bring it to sort of a conclusion. Darren, we're looking at how to improve the end customer third-party security relationship, and this panel is wondering if a mythical, perhaps real, I don't know, super architect, team of the architect is going to do that. Are we looking in the right place?
Absolutely. I think as I said before, the business organization and the business people need to really understand it's a fundamental question of how that business operates, grows, evolves, maybe even survives. And you can't, just because it's complex, kind of bury your head in the sand from the technical perspective. And unless they're able to those technical teams and those technical resources convey in to the business about the requirements and about how they need to deploy controls or to support business or future initiatives, you know, they're going to struggle to get budget. They're going to struggle that they fundamentally don't have the money to spend, no matter how much technically they need it. So there's got to be that meeting, and I think, you know, the super architect person or team can bring that together. And just to Chris's point, I think that technical grounding is really important because it is so technical. You can't get away from that. But there's some technical people who only want to speak to technical people, and I think having an approach where actually they want to learn and develop and be able to explain to others about the impact of it and have that will, they've got the skill, have they got the will to want to do that, is an ideal single person to be able to move into that type of role. Looking at it from the business the other side round, it's difficult probably to get the detailed level of experience you need to be that super architect from a business perspective, but everybody needs a flavour of that.
A flavour, I like that. I'm getting a lot of flavour in this event alone. I'm getting a flavour of the West Midlands, a flavour of CISOs, architects, engineers. I can see Ian has asked a question which I think I'd like to reserve for the engineer panel about qualifications, and actually, Martin, you're going to be there on that engineer panel too. So and Edim, what role will hyperconverged play in creating cyber resilient MSS clients? Wow. Okay. We don't have, I mean, it's a good question, but I don't think we have time to answer it on this one. But Edim, just like Ian, I think we'll reserve that for our engineer panel, which I think will flow nicely, because also that career pathway is an architect, you know, coming from an engineer or from somewhere else. Lots of questions, but that's the evidence of a good panel, that we now have more questions. Lucky we have another panel later on, but we are out of time. So Martin, Chris and Darren, thank you very much for coming on. It's great to be here in the West Midlands, and a big virtual round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.